Eilish, ahead of the big half this weekend, your first half marathon since your national record in Berlin, and you were just saying it's not just about the physical but the mental as well. Coming off the back of an Olympics and another training camp in Font, firstly, how are you feeling ahead of it?
Yeah, I'm really excited to be back in London, particularly my first road race in a long time in the UK. And that's really special. Like, there's always really good atmosphere. The crowds are lining the streets of London, which is really nice. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement coming into this, and it makes all of those months of hard training, the rehab, particularly coming back from surgery. It just makes that a little bit more worthwhile. This is why we do it. Do you know what I mean? This is the fun part now.
And with a half marathon as well, is it almost to an extent fear of the unknown that you don't really know kind of where you're at, but actually the entire reason of doing this is to get race prep and actually to get that fitness, and the best way to do that is obviously through racing.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's definitely going to be a challenge for me. The half marathon is probably at the top end of my distances at the moment. I haven't, when you have surgery, obviously it's such a long time out. I had almost 6 months of no running at all. So you're starting from zero, really starting from scratch. And I knew that I was going to run out of time to prepare for a marathon this year, and I knew it was going to be tight even to get ready for a 10k on the track, and we just about squeezed that in. My fitness obviously wasn't quite where I'd like to be, but we've made really big improvements. I'd say from June onwards, probably from Rome at Rome European Championships.
Yeah.
From there onwards, things have been so much better. Like, I'm pretty much back to my normal training program again. Before that, it was just a bit of a nightmare. Stop start, and still adjusting things, and still having to change things, and still having to manage symptoms on a daily basis. So yeah, there's a little bit of unknown going into this on Sunday, even mentally as well. I think when you've had a pain that's been there for, like, it's chronic, it's over a year and a half, and it's now part of my mental process to try and, like, forget about it and move on and go, okay, it's okay now. Like, you can run on it.
Yeah.
You're not going to cause any problems. So there's definitely a mental aspect of it too, and so I'm excited to. We've ticked off the 10k. I feel like mentally we've done that. I know I can get through it as good. So now it's the half marathon.
And this block of big half, Great North Run, 10k in London later on in September, was that kind of when you mapped out what because I remember chatting to you before the Olympics and you said, my season is essentially beginning.
Yeah.
A lot of people's is ending. Was that on purpose to make sure that you had this block ahead of next year?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, as I said, coming back from surgery, you spend so many months rehabbing, cross training your absolute nuts off, and then you think, what for? Do you know what I mean? For me, it was amazing to go to the Olympic Games, but I run because I love it. Do you know what I mean? I race because it's a passion, it's a hobby, and yes, it is a job as well, but this is like the enjoyable part. So yeah, could I go away now and train for the next 4 months and get myself ready for next year? Yeah, I could, but I just feel like I deserve to enjoy this sport as well, especially at this point in my career. Like, to get the opportunity to run in the UK is scarce. There's not many opportunities around, certainly big races like this.
Yeah.
And they're fun. I absolutely love them. There really is such a good atmosphere in every single one. So yeah, I just think at this point, have a little bit of a racing block, enjoy that. After, as I said, the months and months of training that we've put into this. And then it puts me in a really good position for the winter. I'll still have a little bit of a break, some time off, but at least it gives me a really good starting point and a bit of a platform then to really get stuck into my winter training and come out next year.
I was about to say, what's the definition of success for you over the next few races? Is it just proving fitness ahead of next year? Because when you think that your last half marathon in Berlin was that British record of 65:43, I mean, looking back, that's crazy to think that was, kind of the start of last year, sorry.
Yeah, I'd say, to be honest, those two races in the 10k, 10,000 metres on track were around 30 flat, and then going into Berlin, 65:43. They were both British records, both huge PBs. And to be honest, those races are probably why I'm still here and still pushing, because I just think I know the training I did to achieve those, and I know it wasn't plain sailing, so there's more there, and I think that's probably like a little bit of a dangling carrot for me to think, well, I can go sub 30, I know I can. And I actually think I can go sub 65, like that's the big goal. I do think I can run 64. And it's those sort of moments that sort of keep me motivated and keep me pushing for that. It might not happen this year just because of the time I've had off, but certainly next year that's a huge motivating factor to go into, knowing that if I can get a good run out here, be competitive of course against a British field. There's Callie's obviously in the shape of her life. Abby Donnelly's been running brilliantly this year as well. So it's a competitive field, and I just think if I can come here, be competitive, get a good marker, it just gives me a bit of a starting point to say, right, this is the half, we've ticked it off, we've done it, and then we can really start to get closer to those goals that I think I can do.
I was about to say, is there anything over the last, year and a half that you've learnt more about yourself? Because you've got, as you said, so many sessions, cross trainings when you are on your own at times. I mean, what's the biggest thing for you that kind of coming off this period that you've learnt about yourself?
Yeah, probably just that I do enjoy racing. I'm definitely a competitor, and sometimes I can sort of elevate my game when it comes to races and competitions, but I have to be fit obviously to be able to do that. But still, it's just having that for me is still a big motivating factor. Even now, in my 30s, having been in the sport for as long as I have, I suppose it's just reaffirmed to me that racing is the part I love. Do you know what I mean? I still love this sport, and also I still believe I can improve. I think a lot of people, like a couple of years back, would think, oh, people in their 30s, they've no chance of still getting faster and improving. But I've been able to see that just last year. I've had a little bit of a glimmer of it, and I can see it in training, and I think the motivation is certainly there. If you can go through all of those days where you are training on your own, on a cross trainer, on a spin bike, in the gym, just doing the stuff that's so boring and so monotonous and so just stuff that I don't enjoy, the aqua jogging. Do you know what I mean? Hours of that in a pool every single week. You think you're doing it for a reason because you still believe. There's still something inside you saying, actually, keep going for some reason. And there's a lot of other women that I look up to as well, especially in the US. Some of the marathon runners there, like Sarah Hall, Kira D'Amato, even Sinead Diver, Laura Whiteman over in Australia as well. I mean, they have families, they're getting into their 40s, and yet they're still competing at a very, very high level. So for me, again, that's ultimately why I think looking towards the marathon, it's given me a little bit of reassurance that you're still getting stronger, you're still getting faster. Maybe, your 1500 metre days are long behind you on the track, but there's certainly still a future in the marathon.
And we're just saying, so the marathon next year seems to be the big goal, and obviously with the Tokyo World Champs being in September, kind of towards the end of the year, in theory, that gives you a bit more time to kind of prepare and map out that season, kind of to focus on that potentially. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'm probably going to learn from what I did in previous years and put all my eggs in one basket. I was so determined that London was the be all and end all, and I would absolutely love to do the London Marathon. There's no doubt about it. It's like the pinnacle marathon for a British athlete in the UK. Just the support, the atmosphere, everything around it. I mean, pacing it was incredible, so I can't imagine what it's like actually running it for real. So there's no doubt that is up there. That's my priority, but I think I put so much pressure on it being that, and if it wasn't that, then nothing else would be the same. So I need to be a little bit more open-minded of, if that doesn't happen, then there are other opportunities. And so that's probably one of the best things about road racing, is that you do have a little bit more time. Like when you're on the track, you have your World Championships, you have your Olympic Games, and that is it. Like there's no other like major events around that. And if you're sick on that one day, or you just wake up and you just don't feel great that one day, then it's game over. Do you know, you've wasted so much training to get to that point. So I think it's given me a little bit, maybe a bit more breathing space to know that, okay, if you miss London, then maybe you can go to, I don't know, Berlin at the end of the year, or there's Chicago, there's Boston, there's New York, there's so many, obviously there's 6 majors, but there's also then a hell of a lot of other marathons around that too. So it's maybe just give myself a little bit of more breathing space to say, when I'm ready, I'll do one. When my body's ready, I'll be ready to run fast, and I'll do it properly. So I think next year for sure the marathon is the top of my agenda, and if that means World Championships and it fits, great. If not, then the 10,000 would always be my backup plan. At the end of the day, you have to be in good 10,000 metre shape to run a marathon. We've seen that these days with Asefa, with Hassan, with Abiri. I mean, these women would still run world-class 10,000 metre times.
Actually, just quickly on Safan Hassan, what she achieved, obviously people talked about Zatopek and what he did in the 1952 Olympics, and for a female athlete to get bronze in the 5, bronze in the 10, have 1 day rest and then do the marathon. I mean, what do you make of her achievements?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty inconceivable. I mean, even me doing the 10k, I mean, I didn't run half anywhere near as fast as she was, and I couldn't walk for the next 2 days. So I don't know if that just says I'm very, very unconditioned. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense in my mind to be able to have like 1 day and do a marathon. It's just utterly, it's insane, absolutely insane. But obviously her coach, Tim, must know that she's capable of doing it. He must see it in training. I mean, when you see things in training, your coach believes in you a hell of a lot more than probably you believe. So yeah, it's mad. I don't even think she'll be finished. I'm sure she'll have another marathon on her plan for this year. I doubt she's on holiday anytime soon. Yeah, it's insane.
And just finishing off then, talking about Paris and the Olympics, your 4th Olympics, of course, you know, reflecting on that now, 15th place finish, but it was a time I think you kind of came out of it and thought, actually, in terms of where I was, obviously with the Europeans, you know, the Olympics, I guess you must have been really pleased with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, if it was 2 to 3 months later, I would have been much happier. I think I would have been in a much better place, more consistent training to try and, from dropping out in Rome and then getting sick, and then from probably the end of June to the Olympics just wasn't enough time to obviously be competitive at the top end. I mean, in a dream world, I would have been back in PB shape and been able to at least be competitive towards the last part of that race. But I was also very race rusty, and I probably didn't really think too much about that either. I thought, I'll just train and then I'll go to the Olympics and I need the training time. So I was like stuck between, a rock and a hard place. I needed the training because I was running out of time, but I also then didn't have any races, which meant I just felt a bit flat. I didn't have my usual like 5k races to get my legs going, or even 1500s in previous years. Like, that was the disappointing part for me, because I didn't feel it quite reflected the fitness level I was actually in.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, in hindsight, I should have maybe been a little bit more confident and made it a harder race. That would have definitely suited me more, like I've done at Commonwealth, or like I did when I ran my PB. Like, we set off so hard, and I just run a really hard, consistent race, because I've missed that sort of turnover and injection of pace in training. But it's hard. I think mentally I still was in a protective mode a little bit of what I've been through with the knee and with the surgery and stuff, so I didn't want to be the one at the very front of the race at the Olympic Games. After having a year and a half out, it didn't seem sensible to me. So yeah, 15th was a little bit of a disappointment, but in all honesty, to even make that start line was the achievement in itself. Like, that was my gold medal, making that start line. And we didn't think it was possible for a very, very long time, and I still think I gave a relatively good account of myself considering the time we've had off, but I just don't think it's quite a true reflection of the work we had put in.
And the last point from me, you know, you had that amazing moment which went viral with Megan at the end, waiting for her to cross the line. Could you open up about that? Because that picture, I mean, it was all over the internet, and people were saying this is an amazing moment, this is what the Olympics is about.
Yeah, I didn't realise how viral it had gone, because I didn't have my phone. It wasn't until I'd gone on it very briefly and then I was off it again. It wasn't until I saw my family and Michael was like, oh, that picture, by the way, is just gone everywhere. But at the time, I suppose I didn't think anything of it. I remember crossing the line and then wondering where Megan was or how she was, because obviously I knew she was struggling in the race. When we went past her, I could tell she was having a tough day. And I've just been there. You know, I've been there myself plenty of times in races, and I've had the dreaded DNF. And I suppose, for one, I was just proud of her for not stopping, because that would have been an easy option. But it's the Olympic Games, like, no one wants to stop. And when she crossed the line, I think she had like a sense of relief that she had done it. And actually, I remember her saying something like, "Oh, are they cheering for me?" Because she was just so overwhelmed. The noise of the crowd was insane. And I remember looking around, and all the other runners had gone. Like, everyone had just gone off to do media or whatever. So it wasn't until afterwards I realised, maybe what a special moment that was. That it was just the two of us standing on that track, experiencing all of that noise. But yeah, I just said to her, the crowd's cheering for you. Like, you're an Olympian. And then she even said, oh, I just think if I stopped, like I wouldn't call myself an Olympian. She felt like she needed to finish in order to say she had done it, which I get. Like I would have that exact same mentality myself. So yeah, it was a special moment. I know it was a tough race for the both of us and she had her challenges going into it, but again, that is sport. That's the highs, the lows. You could have the absolute season of your life like she was doing, and then something happens. You pick up a niggle, you pick up an injury, you pick up an illness, and you feel like all that work's gone, but yeah, she still got her moment, and she has plenty more moments to come. It was just nice to be there for her because I know her family were in the crowds, and I know she had a lot of family at home as well that probably just wanted to go and give her a big hug at that moment. So yeah, it was nice that I was there to be able to do that.